If you're looking to melt belly fat this year, you're going to want to pay attention to this lesson. There are two primary roadblocks that prevent your metabolism from burning belly fat. The first one is when the hormone insulin is high. The second roadblock is when you have too much inflammation. When you have these two roadblocks in place, it makes it almost impossible to burn stubborn fat. The following 7 foods I'm about to share with you are the two roadblocks that raise inflammation, raise insulin. These foods might be surprising to you because most people think they're healthy foods that help with fat loss, but that could not be further from the truth. Let's start with the first food, and that's going to be oatmeal. Oatmeal converts into sugar inside of your body. This might not happen as quickly as drinking a can of soda or eating processed sugar, but it does happen over a period of hours. Eating oatmeal is like eating sugar. It converts into sugar in your bloodstream. When that happens, there's a huge insulin response, which signals to your metabolism, store fat. Oatmeal is also typically loaded with high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, and it's loaded typically with pesticides. High fructose corn syrup and pesticides destroy your mitochondria and disrupt your metabolism by lowering your basal metabolic rate, which is your body's ability to burn calories. When your batteries go weak, the mitochondria in your cells, it slows your metabolism down, making it very difficult to burn fat. If your goal is to burn belly fat, eating oatmeal will put you in a fat storage state, not a fat burning state. You may have heard of something called the glycemic index. That is the glucose blood sugar response from eating a certain food. Oatmeal actually has a high glycemic index, leading to a blood sugar spike, insulin spike, and then fat storage. There are also typically added sugars in many prepackaged oatmeal varieties that contain added sugars or artificial sweeteners, which are also inflammatory. Oatmeal also contains an anti-nutrient called phytic acid. Phytic acid inhibits the absorption of certain minerals like iron and zinc. Also, there can be gluten contamination with certain oats and oatmeal products out there as well. Gluten can be inflammatory for many people. A healthier breakfast swap would be bacon and eggs cooked in beef tallow. You could have pork bacon or turkey bacon. This is protein and fat, keeps you full and satiated, lowers inflammation, lowers insulin, and helps you burn fat. The second food to avoid is whole grain wheat bread. Dr. William Davis, who's the author of Wheat Belly, I brought him on my Metabolic Freedom podcast before, and in his book Wheat Belly, he shows that 2 slices of wheat bread spikes your blood sugar levels as much as a 12-ounce can of soda or a Snickers bar. When you spike your blood sugar levels, as I mentioned, you spike your insulin levels. And the higher your blood sugar levels, the faster you age and the faster you pack on fat. Don't believe me? The studies show this as well. There's a measurement called the hemoglobin A1C, which is a 3-month measurement of your blood sugar levels. And a recent study shows if your hemoglobin A1C is at 7.5% or higher, you lose 100 days off your lifespan every single year, meaning if it's at that level for 15 years, you lose 4 years off your lifespan. That is how destructive high levels of blood sugars are. And most people don't know that wheat bread spikes your blood sugar very high. It's not just the glucose spike from the wheat bread that's problematic, there are some other issues as well. Most wheat in the United States is sprayed with glyphosate. Glyphosate is a nasty pesticide that removes minerals from your body and causes something called leaky gut. Now, let's talk about the mineral part here as it relates to fat loss. Minerals feed your little batteries within your cells, the mitochondria. And if you don't have the minerals to power up the batteries within your cells, it lowers your metabolic rate. And then the leaky gut issue can be an issue as well. Leaky gut is called intestinal permeability. Essentially, we have this closed mucosal barrier, or tight junctions, and it's designed to be very tight and closed. So that's why it's called the tight junctions. And when you consume foods like wheat bread that contain pesticides, it pokes holes in your gut, creating an inflammatory intestinal lining, opens up those tight junctions, and now you have food that goes undigested, enters your bloodstream, and your immune system reacts to this problem. It sends signals to deal with that inflammatory response. Now, if this happens short term, it's not really problematic. The immune system can take care of it. When this happens over time, it leads to a hyperimmune response. In other words, it can lead to autoimmune diseases, food sensitivities, and inflammation overall. And again, if you want to burn belly fat, we do not want to raise inflammation, we want to lower inflammation. Another issue is that the wheat in the United States is very different than the wheat in Europe, for example. The wheat in the US is this hybridized wheat called dwarf wheat. Our metabolism does not process this dwarf wheat efficiently, which impacts our metabolic health and causes inflammation and fat gain. Additionally, MIT researcher Stephanie Seneff has shown with her studies that glyphosate pushes toxic heavy metals like mercury and aluminum deeper into your tissues. Stephanie Seneff's research, along with Nancy Swanson, has shown strong correlations between the application of glyphosate in the United States and certain diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. A healthier swap to wheat bread would be coconut flour bread, or even better, carnivore bread. Here's a simple carnivore bread recipe made with minimal ingredients and is completely compliant with the carnivore diet, and it helps you burn fat. This is the best option if you're gonna eat bread. I'll put this recipe down below, but I'll outline it for you right now. It's going to contain the following ingredients: 6 large eggs, 4 ounces of cream cheese, half a cup of pork rinds crushed into fine powder, or you could just simply buy pork rind flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 tablespoons of either beef tallow, butter, or ghee. You want to melt that, and then 1/4 teaspoon of high quality salt. You're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and line a loaf pan with parchment paper and grease it with the tallow, the butter, or the ghee. In a bowl, you're going to mix the crushed pork rinds or the pork rind flour, the baking soda, and the salt. In a blender or food processor, combine the eggs, the cream cheese, and melted fat. Blend until smooth and frothy. Gradually add the ingredients to the wet mixture. Mix until you have a smooth batter. Pour the batter in the prepared loaf pan. Bake for 25 to 30 minutes or until the bread is golden brown and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Cool the bread and slice it up. It should take about 10 minutes to cool. Slice it up and you have yourself a healthy, fat-burning carnivore bread. The third food you want to avoid are almonds, almond flour, and almond milk. Anything that contains almonds. Almonds contain a high amount of a nasty anti-nutrient called oxalates. Oxalates are tiny crystals that, again, poke holes in your intestinal lining, creating leaky gut and inflammation. As you can see here, for those watching on YouTube, here are images of what oxalates look like under the microscope. It looks like tiny little needles. These needles are inflammatory to your gut, raises inflammation, causes fat storage. Almonds are also high in omega-6 fatty acids. While these fatty acids are essential, an imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids can promote inflammation in the body, potentially leading to weight gain. So many people who are inflamed and have difficulty burning belly fat have a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Almonds also contain phytic acid. These are anti-nutrients that can bind to essential minerals like calcium, magnesium, zinc, and iron, preventing their absorption in the digestive tract. This can lead to mineral deficiencies. And again, your mitochondria need minerals to create energy and help you burn fat and produce energy. Healthier swaps to almonds would be organic and raw macadamia nuts, pili nuts, walnuts, and pecans. And replace almond milk with organic unsweetened macadamia nut milk or organic unsweetened coconut milk. The fourth food that blocks your metabolism from burning belly fat is spinach. Yes, your beloved spinach smoothie can be causing more harm than good. Spinach also contains oxalic acid, the oxalates that we spoke about, this nasty anti-nutrient that creates inflammation in the body. When oxalates bind to calcium in your blood, tiny, sharp oxalic acid crystals form and can be deposited in the body and cause things like muscle pain. And when this happens in the kidneys, it can also create kidney stones. In sensitive people, even small amounts of oxalates can cause burning in the eyes, ears, mouth, and throat. I know personally when I was consuming a lot of spinach and almonds, which are loaded with oxalates, I was getting these reoccurring styes in my eyes. So instead of spinach, we want to replace it with asparagus, arugula, lettuce, bok choy, or Brussels sprouts. Those are lower in anti-nutrients and actually more beneficial for fat loss. Before I get to the fifth food, I have a huge announcement for you. I have a brand new book called Metabolic Freedom, published with Hay House, being released May 13th, 2025. This book outlines the exact steps to restore your metabolism, heal your hormones, and burn fat. It presents to you the problems to why we see metabolic disease and the exact steps to restore your metabolism to burn serious fat. At the end of the book, there's a 30-day plan for you to lose up to 30 pounds in 30 days. And here's the exciting announcement. You could get this book right now. And when you order it today, you'll get a free Metabolic Freedom mini course where I teach you how the metabolism works, my favorite keto and fasting hacks to burn fat, and exclusive interviews with Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. Daniel Pompa, Cynthia Thurlow, Megan Ramos, and others. That is all for free in this mini course. If you go to the QR code on the screen right now, or if you're listening on the podcast, head to metabolicfreedombook.com or click the link at the top of the notes of this video and this podcast. You could go purchase the book right now and get immediate access to this free mini course and exclusive interviews. Click the link down below or go to metabolicfreedombook.com. The fifth surprising food that blocks your metabolism from burning belly fat is oat milk. Oh my gosh, when I go to so many coffee shops, even these healthy organic coffee shops, they're always offering me oat milk. And I always say no. Here's the issue. Look, oat milk has gained popularity as being a healthy plant-based alternative to dairy milk. But I gotta say, there's nothing healthy about oat milk. It has a high glycemic index. Oat milk has approximately scores a 69 on the glycemic index, which is more than double of what cow milk scores in the glycemic index, which is around 30. This means oat milk can cause a rapid increase in your blood sugar levels, which is important because the higher blood sugar levels go, the more insulin is pumped out, the more you store fat, not burn that fat. A standard cup of oat milk contains about 16 grams of carbohydrate, so it breaks your fast, and it also has maltose, and this actually scores around 105 on the glycemic index. And some commercial oat milks have added sugars, artificial sweeteners, making it more inflammatory, more prone to fat storage. Oat milk also has low protein content, about 2 to 3 grams of protein per cup, which is significantly less than something like cow's milk. And oat milk is typically loaded with glyphosate, pesticides, and herbicides, and we already outlined why that's not healthy for your body. So healthier swaps to oat milk is going to be organic raw heavy cream, organic raw milk, organic unsweetened macadamia nut milk, or organic unsweetened coconut milk. The sixth food that blocks you from burning fat are diet soda and zero-calorie drinks. Some studies suggest that the artificial sweeteners in diet sodas and zero-calorie drinks, such as aspartame and Splenda, sucralose, can disrupt metabolic processes. This can alter the gut-brain axis and potentially increase insulin levels despite it containing no sugar, contributing to weight gain and insulin resistance over time. Researchers have indicated that artificial sweeteners might paradoxically lead to weight gain and increased cravings, potentially due to the disruption of the brain's reward systems or the gut microbiome. Artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame may negatively affect gut microbiota composition. Changes in the gut microbiome are linked to metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, impaired glucose intolerance, and weight gain. Some individuals who consume artificial sweeteners report headaches, dizziness, and mood changes after consuming it. Artificial sweetener consumption has been associated with increased markers of oxidative stress and inflammation as well. And lastly, there can be an endocrine disruption when you consume artificial sweeteners. It could affect hormone regulation. And if you want to burn fat, it is all about the hormones. So healthier alternatives to artificial sweeteners would be sugar replacements such as stevia, erythritol, xylitol, and monk fruit. Some examples of this would be Zevia, sparkling water with electrolytes is a good option, or a product called Swoon, which is sweetened with monk fruit. The sixth food blocking you from fat burning is whey protein powders. Whey protein is rapidly digested, leading to a quick release of amino acids in the bloodstream. That's a good thing. But this rapid increase in amino acids, especially the branched chain amino acids like leucine, stimulates the secretion of insulin from your pancreatic beta cells. This means that whey protein is very insulinogenic. As I said at the beginning of this video, the higher your levels of insulin, the faster you store belly fat. There's something called the insulin index, which measures the insulin response of foods compared to glucose. Whey protein has a higher insulin index than some carbohydrate-rich foods, meaning it could stimulate insulin secretion to a similar or greater degree than bread or even pasta. Look, if you choose to go with whey protein, make sure it's organic, grass-fed, and cold pressed, and have it after a workout or exercise when you're more insulin sensitive. In general, I typically stay away from whey protein. I swap that out, and I recommend this suggestion to all my students to have 100% grass-fed beef protein isolate instead. This does not have that same insulin response. It's high quality essential amino acids, helps you burn fat, and tastes good. The one that I use is from Equip Foods. They have their prime protein. It is terrific. It tastes amazing. You could get it for 20% off by going to equipfoods.com/benazadi. I'll drop that link in the notes down below. The seventh food to avoid are flavored yogurts. Most flavored yogurts contain a significant amount of added sugars to enhance the taste. A single serving, which is about 6 to 8 ounces, can contain 10 to 25 grams of added sugar, which is equivalent to 2 to 6 teaspoons of sugar. A lot of these flavored yogurts also contain high fructose corn syrup, which is mitochondrial poison. And some of them contain those artificial sweeteners, sucralose, aspartame that we mentioned earlier, that are not healthy for your body. Some brands use thickeners like cornstarch to create a creamy texture instead of high quality milk. A lot of people consume low fat or fat-free yogurt thinking it's going to actually help them burn fat, but they replace the fat, which is naturally occurring in that yogurt, with a chemical shitstorm, essentially, artificial ingredients and sugar to make it taste good for you. So what would be a healthier swap? Cottage cheese. Organic cottage cheese would be much better than flavored yogurt. If you go with yogurt, go with an organic, unflavored Greek yogurt, and that would be much healthier. If you want to add some taste to it, maybe add some organic blueberries on top of your Greek yogurt. Those are better options for fat loss. Now let's get to the most common questions you submitted here on YouTube on this topic. Question 1, can you share more information about anti-nutrients found in vegetables? I think this is the reason I have symptoms and why I cannot lose weight. Absolutely. There's an author, Sally Norton, who wrote a fantastic book, Toxic Superfoods, and she's going to share with you why these vegetables might be why you feel inflamed and you have difficulty losing weight. This is going to blow your mind. Here's more with Sally Norton. What are the top healthy foods people need to avoid for longevity, and explain why they're so harmful to us, Sally?
Well, the healthy foods that might shorten the happiness of your old age include the nuts, especially almonds, peanuts, and cashews. Dark leafy greens, in the name of just 3 of them: spinach, chard, and beet greens. And then there's things like sweet potatoes and various gluten-free things like quinoa that get you in big trouble. Plus there's bran and and a handful of others. These are all these fabulous, perfect wonder foods that are going to make you live long. Probably not.
Okay, so when somebody does a search for what are healthy foods to eat to lower inflammation, to lose weight, they'll hear the message of like eat the rainbow. They'll hear about eat the green leafy vegetables, even the 3 that you mentioned, eat your nuts and seeds. And you're saying a lot of these superfoods, according to your book and research, is toxic. Why are they so toxic to us?
The major toxin, and it's not the only one, but it's one that we really don't understand, that we're way over consuming, way past our capacity to handle it. It's called oxalate or oxalic acid. Oxalic acid is in plants. Plants make this acid, and it forms these salts called oxalates. It's often in the form of calcium oxalate. A lot of the calcium that they claim is in things like spinach isn't calcium at all. It's calcium oxalate, which is a toxic form of calcium. It's not. And sadly, we've known this for so long. We've known it for a long time. Botanists are clear about it. Nutrition was clear about it. But then we got into this fad with these phytonutrients and the rainbow concept, and we've just dropped science for the name of like easy messaging.
Is eating raw, like spinach, for example, is eating it raw worse than cooking it?
No, not at all. Cooking it concentrates it. So if you buy a big box of spinach and you cook it, it comes to be like 2 little portions.
I've seen that.
You eat the whole box. Two of you will eat the whole box in one meal versus a spinach salad. You're going to make that go for 12 salads. So cooking it concentrates it. The heat doesn't destroy oxalic acid or the calcium oxalate crystals or other salty forms of oxalate at all. Cooking, you can't get rid of it unless you're leaching it out in the boiling water, throwing out the boiling water. In some vegetables, you can lower the oxalate by boiling and throwing out the water. That would be broccoli, but you need a pretty long boil. And spinach, if you boil it more than 2 minutes, it's absolute mush.
Yes, it significantly shrinks in size.
Yes, its appetite appeal is whatever appeal it had
diminishes. So what is oxalic acid doing in our body when we consume it?
The mechanisms of harm with oxalic acid consumption are vast and very basic. It messes up cells' function in many ways. It changes the membrane structure and makes the cell pro-oxidative. That means there's more free radicals than there is glutathione to squelch it. And the cell loses control of that, what we call redox balance. And that causes the mitochondria to misfire, and you get more of this oxidative stress, which calls in the immune system and creates more inflammation. It sits on enzymes that create your metabolism. It interferes with the production of glucose, interferes with the production of energy. It takes the calcium and messes up electrolytes. It messes up the electrical charges. It gets involved in vascular health, and so your vascular health is affected. It gets collecting in glands and affecting glands, so it starts affecting your metabolism at the management level, at the level of the pituitary, the thyroid gland, the adrenal glands, the pancreas. It damages those tissues and how well they function as well.
So it has a big effect over the entire body is what I'm hearing. At the cell level with the membrane, what exactly is happening with oxalic acid? Is it making the membrane more too permeable? Is it causing leakage in that membrane? What exactly is happening there?
It probably is. And this is very difficult to study. Some of the studies demonstrate that just having these small crystals start forming near cells, just the proximity, it doesn't even have to touch or attach to the cells, because it will attach to vascular material or to cellular debris. That's another issue. But just in the vicinity, there's enough of the electromagnetic charge to it, it's causing like electric damage to the structure of the membrane. So there's certain fatty acids that belong on the inside leaflet of a membrane. A membrane has two layers. There's an inner layer and an outer layer. And the things that belong on the inner layer flip, and they end up on the outer layer, which is one of the ways that the immune system identifies that cell as sick and damaged and comes along and removes the cell. It also causes a permeability to the cells where they start leaking even tiny little things and bigger things. The tiniest would be the potassium. That's another thing that the body detects. The immune system says, hey, potassium outside a cell, that doesn't belong there. Oops, come along, more inflammation. It also can, even in red blood cells, even hemoglobin leaks out of the cells when they're exposed. And it can it sits on the membranes it sits on the enzymes that's attempting to produce energy in the cell. And the cell ends up not with too little ATP energy and can't keep the potassium and the sodium pumps working. So if the sodium is building up in the cell, water flows into the cell and causes the red blood cells to swell and bust open.
Is the issue here, Sally, that we're consuming too many of these plants with oxalates and other anti-nutrients? Because when we think about, let's discuss what our ancestors did, or maybe even 100 years ago, were they consuming oxalic acid? Was it just at a very low amount and the body was able to deal with it? And now it's just at an extraordinary amount? Like, why is it such a problem now for us?
Well, there's a couple of factors here. There's the complete loss of seasonality, where you don't have a break every winter, where plants and vegetable foods are scarce in the winter and abundant in other times of the year. So you have a break time where the body can do a little recovery and remove the excess that's been collecting in the body. So we've lost winter completely in the last 50 years or so, since really we invested in the interstate highway system for the advantage of moving war materials around, but also the advantage of building up the economy in states like California and Florida that depended on agricultural production for survival. So we could get the trains helping, the highways helping the trains bring all that orange juice up from Florida and bring that California produce to the East Coast, where there was a heavy population 100 years ago. Much more of the country lived on the East Coast. And so we justified a lot of economics around this agricultural model. And once we had electricity in every home, you could sell produce year round. And when I was a kid, that's when they started doing 24-hour grocery stores. And we always put the produce department at the front of the store because these perishable goods are a reason to bring the consumer back in on a routine basis and keep your sales up. So there's a lot of that in modernity where we have this non-seasonal diet, which has been particularly changed, I would say, since about the end of the 1970s. So through the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, we've been ignoring seasons. But in the longer history, it really was with the whole European exploration, bringing potatoes to Europe, and then the advancement of transportation generally, where you've got more things like nuts in the diet. Really, nuts didn't come in until about 1900. In the U.S., it was the peanut that was elevated from an agricultural product grown for pigs to feed the pigs in the South. Post the Civil War in the U.S., we needed to boost the economy in the South, and the cotton crops were struggling with other infestations. So they were bringing peanuts up to the level of a human food with the invention of peanut butter and the promotion of that as a household staple for economic reasons. So we've added potatoes 400 years ago. We added tea 500 years ago. We added peanuts 100 years ago. We added dark chocolate about 20 years ago. We've added keto bread and eating nuts all the time. And tea is great to everyone. And now we're doing gluten-free, adding the quinoa and the nut breads and so on. And then we're going dairy-free a lot these days. So that lowers your calcium intake. And calcium is the binder that helps protect you from oxalate and helps the body remove oxalate. So we've lowered our calcium intake in our concern over dairy. We've increased our oxalate intake and our concern over gluten. If both of these things cause destruction of the gut, it doesn't really help us with that fundamental gut problem that makes us less tolerant to these foods we used to eat.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there that all have contributed to this snowball effect of these toxic superfoods and the damage that they're doing to us. You mentioned the keto space, which of course I'm in the keto space. And over the years, my viewpoint on keto and how I teach it has changed dramatically, right? Like in the beginning, I was all about the green leafy vegetables that you mentioned. I was all about the almonds and the almond flour. And of course, through your research and others, I realized that these are making people sick. And even my own story, and you're going to share your story later, but with me, I remember I kept getting these styes in my eye, like reoccurring. And they were so painful and so huge and so ugly, lasting 3 to 4 weeks. And I kept telling my fiance, like, I don't know why I keep getting these styes. Am I not washing my hands when I exercise? And I'm really careful with that. And they just kept reoccurring. And I figured out I was eating a whole bunch of these keto pizzas with almond flour. I was doing these green leafy vegetables. And this is my body's way, and I want you to share. Was this my body's way of getting rid of those oxalates through my styes? Because when I removed those high oxalate foods, I have not gotten one sty ever since. It's been a few years since I've had it.
Exactly. For me, I never got the styes till I stopped eating the oxalates. And then as my body was releasing the lifetime of the buildup of oxalate in my brain and my eyes, it was showing up as styes. Boy, they can be pretty disabling, can't they?
Yeah, they suck.
They can cancel a vacation.
Yes.
It's surprising how bad they can be. And the cure, by the way, for anyone who's suffering with them, is to use a little bit of coconut oil on a Q-tip and run that along the eyelashes. And that beautiful fat, coconut oil is a medium and short chain fatty acid that has antifungal, antibacterial properties, and it helps to dissolve that sebum that's getting stuck in those glands. So that excretion process is getting hung up because it's kind of getting all dry and stuck. And so that helps you kind of let it flow out so you can continue to release the oxalate through the eye glands and through the eye fluids without getting these infections.
Oh, that's a good tip. I didn't even know that. And I looked up a lot of ways to cure my sty and I never came across that. So that's good to know, but hopefully I never get it again.
I still use it sometimes as a preventive.
Smart.
Because I'm now in my 11th year of being very conscious and careful with my oxalate consumption. And I am still seeing some signs of oxalate release. Lately, I've just had some more redness and some stuff and some like proto-inflammation, like of some little sty-like thing. There's different names for these little pimple-like infectious bumps in your eyes, right? And I had another one out here. There's still stuff in my central nervous system.
Wow.
The eye fluids, what I have learned just by observation and experience with myself and my followers, is that the eye fluids basically is an excretion route for the central nervous system, because it is the surface of the brain. Your eyes and the tissues that support eye health, eye function, are all just the brain. And so what other exit route does the spine and brain have?
That makes sense. Well, okay, so styes are a sign of possible oxalate overload. What are some other top signs that we should be aware of that we may be having too many oxalates and it's showing us symptoms as a manifestation of that?
All kinds of digestive problems, IBS, pain, indigestion, reflux, fecal incontinence, constipation, hemorrhoids. So digestive issue. Yeah. Connective tissue. So aches and pains, arthritis, fibromyalgia, kinky neck, the basic neck pain or tightness where you can hardly turn your head when you're trying to drive, that can be an oxalate sign. Frozen shoulder, low back pain, urinary tract issues. You might see cloudy urine. You might get burning urine, or you might get a lot of these sort of almost UTIs that feel like a UTI, but if you get it cultured, they're like, well, I don't think it's a UTI. Infections generally, and then neurological things like sleep and mood disturbances, loss of enthusiasm and motivation in your life, anxiety attacks, even depression.
Wow.
Headaches, tooth pain, tooth sensitivity, changes in visual acuity, cataracts, night vision problems, buzzing ears, sore throats, you name it.
Pretty much the majority of symptoms that are out there.
Human suffering, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
It's, if you're going to mess with your digestive function, your liver function, your glandular function, your vascular function, your cellular function, your metabolism, your bones, you're going to suck minerals out of your bones by eating all this oxalic acid. What couldn't go wrong? Like what's immune to those kinds of effects, truly?
You're right. What about kidney stones? Is oxalic acid the number one contributor to kidney stones?
No doubt about that. It's the main ingredient. No doubt if you take away the ingredient, you can't build one. So we only see about 12% of the population getting kidney stones, where the rest of us somehow manage to tolerate gobs of sweet potatoes and nuts or whatever we're overdoing. And the kidneys put up with it somehow, miraculously. And I think the healthier your diet, the better you put up with it. So if you have been more the veggie side of too much oxalate versus the, Pringles and potato chip side of too much oxalate, which is, the potatoes are a problem, and the peanuts and the dark chocolate and the regular chocolate. So you can be kind of like just a regular Joe eating that stuff. Or you could try to fix your life with beets and greens and nuts and do it the really fancy way. Either way, you can blow out your kidneys. But surprisingly, a lot of us don't get kidney stones. And kidney stones are really an end stage product of long period of time of abusing your system with too much oxalate. They're not really the first sign of oxalate trouble.
Interesting. So why do you think that is? I know you mentioned those who are eating oxalate-rich foods but are more whole foods versus those who are eating oxalate foods that are more processed. Those that are eating more whole foods, oxalate foods, are going to have maybe less symptoms or take a little bit longer to get those symptoms. But my question to you, because I always thought about this, what about somebody who goes plant-based, vegan, and they introduce the beets, the spinach, the Swiss chard, the dark chocolate, the regular chocolate, all that's vegan friendly, and they say they feel better initially. Why do you think that happens in the beginning of making that change?
Well, it's a type of a fast. because you're tending to lower protein and healthy fats, and they're hard to digest. There's interfering chemicals in plants. It makes it hard for you to get as much protein and calories out of your food. So it's a calorie restriction typically that's kind of invisible, and you get all the advantages of fasting. There's also a tremendous placebo effect because you're doing all the best stuff, so you really believe in it, and that really supercharges your brain believes you for a while, and it's like, yeah, this is gonna be great. And then, there's also the carefulness of it where you have to carefully select your things, and you're more likely to pick the organics and avoid the alcohol and the junk food and the chocolate cake, which has the eggs in it, which you're now going vegan, so you're actually reducing a lot of PUFAs and bad fats and, gums and gels and additives and stuff that can also affect your health.
Well, there you have it. I mean, she is brilliant at breaking it down, and she has an amazing story of healing her body by removing oxalic acid and anti-nutrients from her diet. The next question is, what are your thoughts on the gluten-free bread? In general, I'm not a fan of gluten-free bread. Typically, gluten-free bread is going to use almond flour, and we already mentioned why almonds are not ideal for health. And they usually contain inflammatory oils like soybean oil or canola oil or sunflower oil. So I would just recommend coconut flour bread, or even better, that recipe I gave you earlier on the carnivore bread. Those are much healthier than most gluten-free bread out there. Next question is this: can you share a list of your favorite fat-burning foods? Yeah, I have a few fat-burning foods for you. These might be surprising. Let's get to a list for you to incorporate. Add this to your grocery shopping list and get the fat burning on. Check this out. Let's start with the first fat-burning food. That is extra virgin olive oil. Numerous studies show how beneficial olive oil is, not just for your health, but for fat loss, weight loss resistance, insulin resistance, and also diabetes. The Preheat study that came out in 2014, this landmark study included 191 participants, and they consumed about 45 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil per day compared to a group eating a low-fat diet devoid of olive oil. The findings showed that the group consuming the olive oil was more effective than the low-fat group in reducing total body fat weight. The study suggests that olive oil can be a beneficial component to weight loss due to its favorable impact on metabolism and fat oxidation, which is fat burning. Another study, which was a randomized control study in 2017, looked at obese adult women with excess body fat who were put on an energy-restricted diet with either extra virgin olive oil or soybean oil. The results indicated that the group consuming the extra virgin olive oil had 80% higher fat loss than the control group. Another study done on obesity patients, which was a 2015 study, looked at the effects of extra virgin olive oil compared to a low-fat diet in preventing obesity. The study concluded that the diet that was high in olive oil was more effective at reducing body weight and overall metabolic function. And it's not just the fat loss benefits you get from the right olive oil, it's also anti-cancer. A systematic review and meta-analysis done by PLOS-1 in 2020 was a comprehensive study looking at 45 individual studies to investigate the association between olive oil consumption and cancer risk. The meta-analysis found that higher olive oil intake was associated with a 31% lower risk of overall cancer, with significant protection noted for breast cancer, gastrointestinal cancer, upper aerodigestive cancer, and urinary tract cancers. Another study from the British Journal of Nutrition highlighted the biological mechanisms by which olive oil may exert its anti-cancer benefits. A key component in olive oil is oleic acid, which is a really important antioxidant. Studies show it prevents your DNA from getting damaged, which extends your lifespan and of course lowers your risk of cancer. Olive oil can also protect your heart while you burn fat at the same time. The EuroLive study, which was a large multi-center clinical trial conducted in various European populations, that examined the effects of olive oil consumption with different phenolic concentrations on health outcomes. The study found that regular consumption of olive oil increased HDL cholesterol, which is called the good cholesterol. It's a lipoprotein, kind of like the janitorial system of your arteries to clean out the junk. It It also showed decreased total cholesterol and decreased oxidative stress markers and lower triglyceride levels. All of this is important for reducing risk of heart disease. The question I get asked all the time when it comes to olive oil, because you're going to want to consume about 1 to 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every day to get the fat loss, anti-cancer, heart protective benefits. I always get asked, can I cook with olive oil? There are some myths out there regarding cooking with olive oil. And one of the things that people talk about is the smoke point. But there's so much more than just looking at the smoke point of a fat or an oil to know if you should cook with it. There was a groundbreaking study done in New Zealand that really unpacked the truth here. Let's look into the study. This study tested 8 of the most popular cooking oils, which included extra virgin olive oil, olive oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, rice bran oil, and canola oil. That's actually 10 oils they tested. And they did 2 trials. One trial was gradually heating the oil, all 10 of these oils, to about 464 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 240 degrees Celsius. They also did a second trial, deep frying each oil at 356 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius for 6 hours. They looked at smoke point, and that was actually irrelevant in the study because the 2 most important metrics they also looked at was oxidative stability, meaning the more stable a fat, the more heat it could take and remain intact and have its benefits. And according to the oxidative stability, as you can see on this graph here, and I'll explain it for those listening on the Metabolic Freedom podcast, coconut oil had the best oxidative stability, followed by peanut oil. Third was extra virgin olive oil. Then fourth was virgin olive oil, followed by regular olive oil. The worst oil in terms of stability was canola, rice bran, sunflower, and grapeseed oil. But arguably, the most important metric they tested to see how healthy a oil is for cooking was something called polar compounds. The more polar compounds an oil produces after heat, the more inflammatory it can become, meaning it could raise inflammation and cause weight gain. And interesting from this study is that the oil that produced the least amount of these harmful polar compounds was extra virgin olive oil. You can see on the graph here, it scored the lowest amount of these polar compounds, even at high temperatures, even though olive oil has a lower smoke point. And you can see the worst oils on here. The number 1 worst one was grapeseed oil, followed by canola, and then rice bran, and then peanut oil. The reason why you can cook with a high quality extra virgin olive oil is that, yes, it does have a lower smoke point, but it's so rich in antioxidants and polyphenols like the oleic acid and other ones we didn't mention that it protects it from getting damage. So when you're getting your olive oil, you want to make sure you get the right kind. Unfortunately, most olive oil that sits on the shelf at your grocery store, it turns rancid over time because it could be cut with a seed oil or it could be sitting on the shelf for a very long time. So you want to kind of reach towards the back of that shelf at the grocery store and get the oils that are more in the dark shelf that are not exposed to light. You also want to make sure it's in a dark glass bottle. It's 100% organic extra virgin olive oil, and even better, if you could find a company that produces the first harvest press, oh, you're going to get amazing benefits. And here's how you know if your olive oil is good or not. If you have olive oil in your pantry right now, go to your pantry and grab it. Pour a tablespoon into a shot glass and take a shot of it. Then pay attention to what happens next. If it goes down smooth, then that's a red flag that it is not a high quality olive oil. What you want to see and notice is that it burns your throat, maybe makes your tongue a little fuzzy, and even better, makes you cough. If it burns and makes you cough, that's a sign of a high quality olive oil that's loaded with antioxidants and polyphenols and all the amazing factors we want in an olive oil to help you burn fat. Personally, I've been using the Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club. They are hands down the best tasting, cleanest, best olive oil I've ever found. I use it to cook with. I put it in my salad dressings and dips. It burns your throat, makes your tongue fuzzy, could make you cough. They are fantastic. They're also first harvest pressed which ensures even more antioxidants. And you could actually get a $39 bottle of the Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club for just $1 over at KetoCampOliveOil.com. I'll put that link down below, and I will also put all the studies I reference in today's lesson in the notes down below as well. The second fat-burning food is eggs with the yolk. Research suggests that whole egg consumption, including the yolk, may provide beneficial effects on insulin sensitivity, particularly in individuals with metabolic syndrome or with type 2 diabetes. And typically, when you have extra weight on your body, you have insulin insensitivity, which is called insulin resistance, and probably prediabetes or full-on diabetes. In this 12-week randomized controlled trial, participants consumed only 2 eggs per day, and it showed improvements in insulin sensitivity. The study also found that fasting glucose levels and insulin resistance significantly decreased in the group consuming eggs compared to the group that did not consume the 2 eggs per day. This is very important because what blocks you from burning body fat is insulin. And when you consume high quality eggs with the yolk, you could actually lower insulin, make insulin more sensitive, and allow your body to be in a fat-burning state. Another study showed that consuming 3 whole eggs per day as part of a low carbohydrate diet led to improvements in lipoprotein profiles, which is your cholesterol profile, and greater reductions in insulin resistance compared to the yolk-free egg substitute. So you want to get at least 3 eggs per day to get these benefits, and how you cook the eggs and where you get the eggs from is also important, so let's discuss that. The best way to cook your eggs is with a soft scramble, poaching it, or with soft-boiled eggs. You don't want to eat an egg that's overly cooked, like hard-boiled eggs or a regular scrambled egg. The more heat that an egg is exposed to, the more it is cooked, essentially, the more nutrients that is lost, the more nutrients that become lost. So you will retain the protein quality when you undercook your eggs, meaning you don't overcook them. It prevents it from getting denatured, and it increases the bioavailability of the nutrients in that egg. When you don't overcook your eggs, it maintains its healthy fats, which it has a ton of omega-3 anti-inflammatory fats. It has a ton of antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, and that's also preserved when you cook eggs the right way, and it minimizes the oxidation of that cholesterol, which is a bad thing. When you hear eggs cause heart disease, that's not true, but overcooking eggs and getting the wrong source of eggs and oxidizing that fat can be an issue. Not all eggs are created equal. We see marketing terms out there and there's a lot of confusion about cage-free, free-range, and I want to help you cut through that noise. Avoid those marketing terms, cage-free and free-range. While cage-free and free-range sound good, they don't really guarantee that chickens had significant time outdoors or the healthiest conditions, and these terms can be misleading. So prioritize instead the terms pasture-raised and organic. Pasture-raised eggs come from chickens that are allowed to roam outdoors and eat a natural diet, which include grass and insects. They get plenty of sunlight. These eggs tend to be higher in omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin. You could also check for organic certification. Organic eggs come from chickens that are fed organic, non-GMO feed and are raised without any antibiotics or hormones. The brand I personally use at the grocery store is Vital Farms Organic Pastured Eggs. You should be able to find that at most grocery stores. The best option is to buy your eggs from a local farmer. We always want to support local farmers. The third fat-burning food is avocados. One of the key human studies done on avocado consumption and insulin resistance and fat loss was a 12-week randomized control study. And it was a trial that examined the effects of daily avocado intake on cardiometabolic risk factors. The study involved overweight or obese adults with insulin resistance and found that regular consumption of avocado improved markers of insulin sensitivity, which again is important for fat loss. Avocados are rich in oleic acid, which is one of the primary fats found in avocados. It's a monounsaturated fat that helps lower inflammation, also markers of inflammation like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. That's important for fat loss because inflammation blocks your fat-burning hormones from doing its job. So by lowering inflammation, by consuming high-quality foods like avocados, you allow fat burning to take place. Studies also show avocados could normalize lipid levels. It's anti-inflammatory because it's rich in antioxidants. And these antioxidants in avocados are vitamin E, carotenoids, lutein, zeaxanthin. These antioxidants lower inflammation and oxidative stress inside of your body. Avocados also contain phytosterols, which have anti-inflammatory properties. These compounds help to lower the inflammatory response in the body, contributing to overall better joint health, cardiovascular, and metabolic health. You also can get a glutathione production with avocados. It helps to boost your glutathione levels, which is a very important antioxidant for your mitochondria, which helps with fat loss and energy production. So you want to aim to get about an avocado per day. Avocados are also loaded with phytosterols, which is great for inflammation, loaded with B vitamins, which is great for stress, and also loaded with potassium. We hear about potassium as one of the most important electrolytes out there, and it is true. It's very important for your body, and people think of bananas as having a lot of potassium, and it has some, but a Hass avocado has 2 times the potassium than a banana. A Hass avocado has about 800 milligrams of potassium without the sugar found in the banana. So get about half to a full Hass avocado every day to burn fat and get all these benefits. The 4th fat-burning food is wild-caught salmon. Several human studies have examined the effects of salmon consumption on insulin resistance. Again, when you're insulin resistant, you have trouble burning fat. So if we could eat something like salmon to create insulin sensitivity, that'll be a game changer for fat loss. One key study observed the regular consumption of fatty fish like salmon, and they saw reduced lipid markers related to inflammation, improved insulin signaling in individuals with coronary heart disease, and over the course of just 8 weeks, participants who consumed salmon showed a decrease in harmful lipids and lowered insulin levels, again, which is key for burning fat. Salmon is loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA. These are essential fatty acids that play a crucial role in brain health, cardiovascular health, and reducing inflammation inside of the body. Wild salmon is also loaded with high-quality essential nutrients and essential protein, which repairs muscle tissue, helps you preserve lean muscle mass, build muscle mass, which is also important for fat loss. Wild-caught salmon has a ton of vitamins and minerals like vitamin D, vitamin B12, selenium, and potassium, and wild-caught is preferred over farmed fish. Wild-caught fish has low levels of contaminants and antibiotics compared to farmed salmon. Farmed fish contains toxins. They are fed GMO corn, soybean oil, canola oil, wheat, and other animal byproducts. Farmed fish is usually gray, and they give it an artificial dye to make it look pink. And farmed fish contains a high amount of something called polychlorinated biphenyls, which are cancer-causing. With wild-caught fish, you don't have to worry about that. So I aim to get wild-caught fish in my diet 1 to 2 times per week to get all the health benefits and also the fat loss benefits. The 5th fat-burning food is grass-fed butter. I believe that butter is a superfood, and butter contains a good amount of conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. CLA is a type of polyunsaturated fat found naturally in meat and dairy products and also in some supplements, and grass-fed butter has a lot of CLA. CLA has been studied for its potential health benefits, particularly in the context of weight loss and fat reduction. Research suggests that CLA may help to reduce body fat by inhibiting the storage of fat and promoting the breakdown of existing fat stores. CLA is also believed to increase energy expenditure and improve lean body mass, making it beneficial for anybody looking to improve their body composition. The Journal of Nutrition published a study showing that CLA supplementation led to a reduction in body fat mass in overweight and obese individuals, and I'll put all those studies down below. Additionally, grass-fed butter has been shown to help with postprandial glucose, which is the amount of glucose and insulin your body produces after eating a meal. You want to make sure it's grass-fed butter. Some of the brands that I use and purchase at the supermarket that have high-quality grass-fed butter include Vital Farms, it's the same brand that have the quality eggs, and Kerrygold butter. Just make sure it's the grass-fed variety, and I usually get the unsalted version personally. The 6th fat-burning food is grass-fed and grass-finished red meat. Grass-fed meat contains higher omega-3 fatty acids. So many people who struggle with weight loss and fat loss, it's partly because of inflammation. And when your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is off base, you're going to have higher levels of inflammation. It's estimated that the average person has a 20-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. That's not good. We're not designed to have such a huge disparity in that ratio. We're designed to have a closer ratio of 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3. So by eating all the foods I'm mentioning today, but especially the grass-fed meat, which has higher amounts of omega-3 to omega-6 compared to grain-fed meat, it helps to balance out this ratio, which is important to lower inflammation and allow your fat-burning hormones to do their job. Grass-fed meat also has a good amount of CLA, as we just established, is very important for fat loss and improved body composition. Red meat is a high-quality protein with healthy fats, which have minimal impacts on your blood sugar levels and insulin levels, which is important. You're not going to get a big spike of glucose and insulin by eating red meat. Grass-fed meat also is rich in nutrients supporting insulin regulation. Grass-fed meat is an excellent source of vitamins and minerals like zinc, vitamin D, and magnesium. All are critical for insulin function and regulating blood sugar levels. Zinc, for example, plays a role in insulin signaling pathways, while magnesium helps to improve insulin sensitivity. Grass-fed meat is higher in antioxidants than grain-fed meat, especially antioxidants like vitamin E and glutathione. Vitamin E is one of the most important antioxidants for your cell membrane. Why is that important? Because your fat loss hormones, your fat-burning hormones, need to connect to your cell membranes. And by lowering inflammation around the membrane with vitamin E through grass-fed meat, you allow fat burning to happen more efficiently. And we also know, as we established, that glutathione is a master antioxidant for your mitochondria. Again, you could get that in grass-fed meat. Grass-fed meat is also leaner than grain-fed meat, which means it contains less fat, meaning you allow your body to burn body fat faster versus eating food that have more fat. And lastly, grass-fed meat is absence of added hormones and antibiotics. Grass-fed meats are typically raised without the use of synthetic hormones or antibiotics, which can contribute to imbalances in gut health and hormone regulation in humans. When you're cooking your meat, the redder, the better. You don't want to eat your grass-fed meat well done. It loses a lot of the nutrients and it becomes denatured. So medium well is the highest amount you want to cook it, but even better, rare to medium rare would be the best way to do it. Personally, I get my grass-fed and grass-finished meat, wild-caught seafood, from a company called Wild Pastures. They deliver it right to my door in an ice pack, freezer pack. I put it in my freezer. I thought I cook it. They use grass-fed products, organic farming. They support regenerative farming. I'm a big fan of Wild Pastures. And you could get a special deal, not just a discount with Wild Pastures, but also some free gifts if you go to ketocampmeat.com, and I'll drop a link for that down below. The seventh fat-burning food is an oil called MCT oil. There are different types of MCTs, and MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides. It's a medium chain fat. We have long chain fats, we have short chain fats. This is a medium chain fat. There's C6, C8, C10, C12. The one that will get you the best fat loss results is C8, also called caprylic acid. You know, the unique thing about MCT oil is that when you consume it, it bypasses digestion, meaning it does not mix with your stomach acid. Your liver doesn't have to produce a ton of bile to break it down. It actually goes right into the mitochondria of your cells, especially your liver cells. And why is this important? Well, it's kind of like a shuttle bus delivering high quality fats right to the mitochondria. And it allows your mitochondria to use that as an energy source and help your mitochondria produce energy, which helps you feel good. But the more energy your mitochondria produces, the higher your basal metabolic rate, meaning the more calories your body burns. And another benefit here is that caprylic acid, C8-MCT oil, is the most researched MCT oil to help with ketone production. Look at the study on the screen here. Tricapryllin alone, which is C8-MCT oil, increases plasma ketone response more than coconut oil or any other medium chain fat. Why is this significant for fat loss? When your liver is producing ketones from taking MCT oil, those ketones actually increase your metabolism. Those ketones also lower inflammation, make insulin more sensitive, lower blood sugar levels. We hear about the keto diet, but keto is not a diet. Keto is a metabolic process, and just by taking MCT oil, you should get some production of ketones going on and get all the benefits of ketones in your body. So 1 to 2 tablespoons per day of MCT oil would suffice. You could put it in your coffee, your tea, or just drink it straight up in a spoon. You just want to make sure your MCT oil, it's organic and it is in a glass bottle, not a plastic bottle. And I'll drop a link for the organic glass bottle MCT oil that I recommend in the notes down below. The 8th food is a liquid called apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is a powerhouse for fat loss. There are 3 main benefits to apple cider vinegar. The first one is the acetic acid found in apple cider vinegar. This is a short-chain fatty acid that has been shown to increase your metabolism and curb cravings by up to 600 calories per day, and also inhibit fat storage. This also helps people lose weight even when they're having trouble. So apple cider vinegar could help break weight loss resistance or a weight loss plateau. The second main benefit of apple cider vinegar is what it does for digestion. It supports digestion by stimulating your liver to produce bile. That bile breaks down the fatty acids in your food, your metabolism uses it for energy, you burn fat, you feel good. It could also help restore acidity in your gut, which helps with digestive issues like heartburn, aid in protein digestion, and also help with bile enzyme release to break down protein and fat. And apple cider vinegar is great for blood sugar and insulin level stabilization. It's been shown in numerous studies to mitigate blood sugar spikes in people with normal blood sugar levels, those that are pre-diabetics, and even full-on diabetics. So the 3 best times to have your apple cider vinegar for fat loss and all the other benefits we spoke about is 15 to 20 minutes before your next meal. This study from the Diabetes Journal showed apple cider vinegar improved insulin sensitivity after a high-carb meal by 34%. Another great time to have it is after your meal. It could do wonders for gas and bloating and also acid reflux. And then you also want to have it first thing in the morning. There are different ways to consume apple cider vinegar. You could find apple cider vinegar liquid in a glass bottle, make sure it's organic. There also is apple cider vinegar gummies, which I do not recommend because they do not have enough apple cider vinegar to get the benefits we're talking about here, but also they're usually loaded with sugar and artificial sweeteners and preservatives. And then there are supplements like capsules, and that's what I personally do. I'll take 3 capsules of Paleo Valley's apple cider vinegar complex at those times I mentioned to get all those benefits. And we actually have a link and a 15% off code down below in the notes for you. Just one more quick note here on apple cider vinegar. If you're drinking the liquid, dilute it with water so you don't burn your throat, and drink it through a straw so you don't mess up your teeth. So just that's a quick tip for anybody drinking the liquid apple cider vinegar. And you want to get about 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar with water at those times that I mentioned. The 9th food is capsaicin. And capsaicin is actually the active compound found in chili peppers. We know that chili peppers is great for the metabolism. It's known as a metabolic booster. And it does this because of its thermogenic properties, which has potential benefits for fat loss. Capsaicin works by activating the transient receptor potential vinylloid 1, which is called TRPV1, which is a receptor that increases the body's heat production and energy expenditure. This thermogenic effect can enhance fat oxidation, which is fat burning, and boost metabolism. Studies have demonstrated that capsaicin can significantly reduce abdominal fat and overall body fat by increasing calorie burn and promoting the breakdown of fat. Additionally, capsaicin has been shown to suppress appetite, leading to reduced caloric intake overall and supporting your weight loss efforts. And one of my favorite studies that showed this was the European Journal of Nutrition, which highlighted that capsaicin intake increased thermogenesis and fat oxidation, contributing to overall body fat reduction. So how I consume and recommend capsaicin, you could eat the chili pepper. That's one way to do it, make sure it's organic, or you can do a high quality capsaicin powder. If you do the powder, that's gonna be about 10 to 40 milligrams per day, and you could add it to food or find creative ways to use it. I'll drop a link for the powder, the organic capsaicin powder that I've used in the past, in the notes down below. Well, there you have it. Now you understand that these 7 foods that people think are healthy will not help you lose weight. Remove that interference, the body will heal itself. I'm rooting for you to achieve your desired fat loss in 2025 and beyond. Share this video with a friend, and thanks so much for watching or listening to the entire lesson. And if you love this lesson, you're gonna love a recent video I just published on the no BS guide to go from 30% body fat to 10% body fat. I give you the exact steps. Check out this clip and I'll see you in that video. This works so well that you can see results within days. The first step in your protocol is to get fat adapted. What does that mean? That means we are teaching your metabolism to burn fat instead of sugar. There are 2 easy ways to do this within a matter of days. Before I get to those 2 easy steps, here's why this is important. When we think about how the